Okay, so anyways, we're going to talk about the Baltimore game and reinforcing that the NFL is hard. The Houston Texans. It kind of reminded me when everybody kind of fell in love with Prince Oberyn in Game of Thrones, and we were all like,
Prince Oberyn.
this guy's the shit, dude. This guy's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's, what's his name, the actor.
The guy from Last of Us.
Yeah, it's the guy from Last of Us. I just can't think of his name right now. But everybody was really into Prince Oberyn, and that was a subplot that we were really into. And
Pedro Pascal.
And then Pedro Pascal.
Oh, that's
and then,
when he got
and
his
then,
head chopped
And then he
off.
fights.
Oh, no.
He fights the mountain.
Yeah, and he gets his head fucking
and
smashed.
he gets his head smashed in. And that's kind of what I think about the Ravens as. They're like the mountain, dude. Like they are. They really are. It's just they're so physically imposing, and they're such bullies. And even their stadium's kind of medieval. They got those fucking like castle wall.
Patrick Mahomes knows not to
like,
celebrate when he trips you up, though.
What? What do you mean?
Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, yeah. Mahomes is not going to Prince Oberyn you.
Knows not to
Yeah.
dance.
And you know, the Texans had him 10-10 at the half, and they're looking around. They're like, say her name, the whole thing. And then Oberyn's like, I will. And I did this and I did that, and I'm going to smash your face just like I did to her. And that's what they did to them in the second half. It was just like, I really do believe, you talked about rest in the other game, the rest advantage took over for Baltimore, and they have not been good in these spots when they've had rest.
No travel and a week
boat
of
trip.
rest.
Boat trip.
What?
The boat trip. Odell boat trip too.
What?
Who had a boat trip?
Supposedly like the Giants boat trip.
Yeah.
They had booked another one. Odell had booked another boat trip
For this year?
Yeah, they
Just did it in secrecy?
No, it was out. Like
so they were really on a boat.
He rented like some.
Well, it just
ferry.
goes to show you
Northern Neck.
It just goes to show you that New York media is fucking crazy, right?
Yeah.
They're out in the Northern Neck. But I look at this and say, hey, they not only had the bye week, which they've struggled with, and like Lamar struggled with it. He struggled covering big lines at home as a favorite in the playoffs. These games have gone under. You know, like you thought they might sputter, and they did for the first half. And I just say this about Houston. Houston was not afraid of them in the first matchup. We said coming in, they've got to bring pressure, especially on third down. They did that in the first matchup in the first half and kept it tight. They did that in the first half this game, and then in the second half, they just made great adjustments and they stayed on the field. Baltimore kept the defense on the field 2-1 for Houston, and they just wore down, man. But in that first half, I'll tip my cap to Houston. We're not playing for participation trophies here, but that team has been playing in a playoff setting for the better part of 6 weeks. And I think eventually when you're playing in the playoffs that long, whether they're called playoff games or not, teams can run out of gas.
Yeah.
You look at Buffalo. Look at the amazing run Buffalo had, beating Philly, damn near beating Philly in the rain. Going to Kansas City and winning there, beating Miami with the division on the line. Like everything they've done, Pittsburgh, in the weather, the whole thing, it's just after a while, it's like you're going to lose one. And Houston, playing the better team, I think they ran out of gas, and I think the Ravens had a little bit left in the tank, and they're like the mountain anyway, so they just suffocated these guys in the second half. Slowick's not his best day, right? We talk about some coordinators who are interviewing, and you look at them kind of sideways. I did this yesterday. I tweeted about it, and the New York Post picked it up and was like, Chris Long calls out coordinators. I hate that fucking term. I tweeted that, Detroit had 2 coordinators interviewing, and all these guys are interviewing. And yeah, the interviews start after this weekend, but you don't think they're preparing for this stuff? I've heard about the preparation that goes into these. And I'm not saying that's why Slowick wasn't his best or CJ wasn't his best. Certainly not. But what I am saying, in general, on a macro level, I don't know what the fix is, but can you imagine if a player was like, I'm a free agent next year, I can talk to whoever I want during the divisional round, after the divisional round. Fans would not go for it, okay? And I had some people say, well, they kind of, these jobs kind of pay well. You don't want to let them get paid. I'm like, you're missing the fucking point. The point is, you would not be okay with this if it was anybody else, and maybe there's a better way to do it. But the problem is, teams get jumps on them. So then if you got to wait a while to hire your coach, the teams that are not in the playoffs can hire their coach, obviously, and they're also starting to build their team and that sort of thing. And so if your guys wait until the NFC Championship or after that, it kind of gets out of phase. Slowick didn't have his best day. Stroud didn't have his best day. The pressure. I mean, he was under pressure the whole game. And if there's any, participation trophy you want from this thing, if you're a Texans fan, is I don't think there's anything I saw in this game that tells me CJ Stroud's not going to be okay.
Yeah, 100%.
You walk into this stadium with only Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz, and this is a team. Don't forget, at the beginning of the season, we said they're not very good. Look around. We didn't know who Tank Dell was, even though Tank Dell came on. You look at the roster, you're like, they found a way to get in the playoffs, and they were tied 10-10 with the Ravens at the end of the first half.
They made them bleed.
They're like Oberyn. But the difference between them and Oberyn is they'll be back next year. Oberyn's head is smashed into a million little pieces. The Houston Texans will be back. The Ravens are just a different class right now. And, Ravens fans, you guys lived up to your reputation.
And I give a tremendous amount of credit to the Baltimore Ravens for taking full advantage of the weapons at their disposal. Because when I watched Josh Allen play last night, and obviously we talked about all the short, behind the line of scrimmage and at the line of scrimmage throws, it's frustrating when you got a guy who flashes the 70-yard deep ball.
Yeah.
With Lamar Jackson, you know what you have with that weapon. You have the ability to throw. And just like when you're playing Madden, you can hit right trigger and take off whenever you feel like it with conviction. Lamar can do that.
Yeah.
And particularly in the red area, I think
there's one play in particular, Kyle.
It's the biggest advantage, right?
Yeah.
It's having the ball in his hands with the ability to either throw it or run it. I think the biggest crime, if you're a coordinator in Baltimore, if you're the offensive coordinator in Baltimore, is handing the ball off to somebody else in the low red area and having Lamar watch the play, because then it's 10 versus 11. And they kept painting the picture last night, simple math, if the quarterback has the ball, you get an extra blocker. Nobody I want with the ball more than Lamar Jackson in scoring situations. And also I give a tremendous amount of credit to Jim Harbaugh and that Ravens team, the strength staff, the training staff. That team came out full afterburners in the second half, just like they did in the first half.
Yep.
And they kept their foot on the throttle, as every coach has told us. And they just trusted in their football team, and that's what happened. They went out there and they kicked ass in the second half.
Big trust.
Well, listen, they did, and I also think the Texans had opportunities early. I don't know that they would have been able to stay on top, but they had penalties in plus territory. That Fairbairn miss was my favorite missed kick of the year. I had not that somebody's going to tell me we don't care about your bets. Well, I don't care about your opinion. At the beginning of the first half, I bet the under 21.5, and it's sitting at 20. And Fairbairn gets down there, and that miss, it was like ecstasy in here. The dopamine rush that Fairbairn gave me was incredible. It was worth the game in general. Of course, the total landed on the push, but I can't say enough about the Ravens' resolve and their toughness. They're just built the right way. They have the right kind of guys to make a run. And now you've got Lamar and Mahomes in the playoffs, which something we haven't seen enough of, right? Like, these two guys have been on different tracks, and, you want to see Lamar get there. And I thought, Kyle, you made a great point in the red zone, and this is the very thing that it's the allocation of resources. It's the bind that you put linebackers in. There was a big third down early in this game, and in the red zone, and I think Lamar scrambled to pick it up and then maybe the touchdown. But they're sitting there, and they're in zone underneath, and they have a flat wall built at the sticks, and Bateman comes screaming by, and Harris is in like a zone match. And, parts like the Red Sea, and Lamar can see that Harris is going to pick up Bateman, and he's going to drag across the formation, and maybe he should be passing that, but these are issues that every team has and feels when they play Lamar at linebacker. And so whether he's hurting you with his arm or his legs, it's all built in. There's layers to everything they do, where he can take this. If it's not there, I'm going to take that. Oh, fuck, the third thing can hurt you almost as bad as anything. And so, just a terrific job, Baltimore, taking care of business and getting punched in the mouth and then responding.